let's continue. And we are now in the second part of Shamatha, calm abiding. But here the support will not be stable, or there will be no so-called support, but we will still be using characteristics. Now there is different kinds. An unstable support, we would say, is breathing experience. When you look for the breath, you cannot find it, because this so-called breath is a multiplicity of impressions linked to temperature, touch, expansion of the lungs, the ribs. You get feedback about the experience of breathing, basically you can say from the whole of the body, but especially, of course, the upper part of the body down to the pelvis. The experience of breathing is not such a stable support like a glass of water. It has an incredible dynamics, and that's wished for. It is a dynamic support which has recurrent characteristics of how it feels when breathing in through the nostrils, how breathing in feels in the throat, how breathing in feels in the lungs, how it feels in the belly, and so on. All of this is called in-breath, but the in-breath is a very complex phenomenon, constantly changing. The out-breath is also a succession of experiences of letting go, letting the breath go out. The beginning of the out-breath is different from the middle of the out-breath, is different from the end of the out-breath. And it's a continuity of changing experiences. So that's called, I would say, an unstable or dynamic support. Or better, the truth is there is no support. We cannot find the breath. It's like when we meditate on love. You cannot find love as one thing. It's a quality which is evolving all the time, but it's not something you can find in space, which has a color, which has a definite location, a definite place in our heart. It's a dynamic phenomenon. Okay. But we can meditate using the characteristics of the breathing experience by counting, by following the breathing experience very closely, by settling into it, by examining its nature, by changing it into a deeper experience, and purifying the breath by actually letting go of all self-involvement in the breathing experience. All these things I have explained in the extensive teaching. I will quickly go through this time only. We can then use as a support for shamatha all forms of pranayama, all forms of techniques linked to the subtle energies, not only the outer breath. Pranayama is working with the inner energies as well, this flow of energies. All of that would be called a practice without support, but with tangible phenomena. We can feel something. There is really something going on, although it changes all the time. So, for example, filling the body with breath, interrupting the flow of breath, to speed up the process of breathing, to make it one nose to the other. All of these methods of pranayama are actually at the same time methods to become really settled in one experience only and nothing else. And if we practice that well, we will feel that the flow of distractions has been interrupted. There has been no thinking of something else because we were really with it. A dynamic support actually is not necessarily more difficult. Many people find it easier to stay with the breathing experience than to stay with the visual support. So, although the classification is like that, it could be that you also find the dynamic support easier. Also, like to watch a flowing river might be easier for you as a visual support than a stable glass of water. Because there's something happening. Because there's something happening, we have it easier to stay with it. And then there are meditations with characteristics without any support, but focusing on instructions. For example, I've heard in the Mahamudra teaching, leave the mind in its own free and natural state. And I will use that as an instruction that guides me into shamatha practice. So free and natural becomes an attitude of mind. We have characteristics there. We know how it feels to be more free and more natural. And we take that as our entry into shamatha practice. Or like some of you, you tell yourself constantly, relax. The relax is like a command. It's not very helpful as a shamatha support. But how does it feel to relax? That's an excellent support for shamatha. How is it to be relaxed like a Buddha? And you can feel your mind exploring. How is it to feel relaxed like a Buddha? You understand? You have something in your mind, a characteristic experience of being relaxed. And you link this to your intuition of how it could be to be free like a Buddha. So, wow, this is a support for shamatha which is incredibly powerful and which actually makes us independent from visualized objects, outer objects, sensory impressions. We could even practice it in the bardo when we don't have a body anymore. You could continue with how does it feel to be in this connectedness, this love and compassion, the immeasurable love and compassion of an awakened being. You would feel your way into that, which is an excellent entry into shamatha. It's a shamatha with a warm heart. So this would be called without support, but with characteristics. Or you meditate with an instruction not to involve with thoughts about past, present, and future. It's a little bit abstract, but you would actually have that as your instruction. Whatever thinking arises concerning what was, what will be, and what is now, all this mental activity, just relax that. No fuel, no involvement. And with that instruction, you would enter shamatha. It makes the mind calm. If it is an invitation, a command will not make the mind calm. Allow your mind not to involve with the 3 times: past, present, future. Actually, that's one of the qualities of shamatha. When you have mastered shamatha, any moment in life, you can decide, you can say, okay, no need to think anymore. And you can relax all this preoccupation. That's mastery of shamatha, and you can relax it for as long as you want. Okay? It's the capacity to relax that mental activity which is not needed right now. And then as you want to think, as you want to communicate, you use that capacity again. But you're not like a hamster in the hamster wheel obliged to think. The capacity to relax the mind equals the capacity to step out of the habitual patterns of obsessive thinking. Okay. So there can be other instructions we meditate on. I give the last one. For example, you get an instruction, leave mind like space. Let the mind be spacious. That is an idea, very abstract, because no one knows space. Visual space, mental space, space of freedom, space. And you leave the mind spacious. The only reminder we use is remember to let mind relax into its own spacious nature. And an even better support would be, a better reminder would be, let the mind relax into its own dynamic space, so that we don't space out into something like a bubble. Okay, also these you can say focus of shamatha meditation on such subtle characteristics we need to use a lot. You won't believe how much I've been using the spacious nature as a support. This was very important in, some years of my practice. Really important. Because even if you have had some true non-dual Mahamudra experiences, all the rest of the practice is always shamatha. For the only exception of the moments of non-dual experience, all the rest is shamatha. So don't develop an aversion to shamatha. That's what we practice for as long as we don't completely forget ourselves. So, yes, shamatha practice, calm abiding, becomes Mahamudra calm abiding, with this touch of naturalness, of no hope, no fear, no manipulation and so on, but still the slight observing activity of the mind is there. Slight subject-object division is there. No problem. We don't give more energy into it, we don't fight with it. We simply take it as it is and remain relaxed. Now, there is also another way of practicing with characteristics without a support. When we use the characteristics of mental activity, for example, instructions like opening all sense fields, opening all senses, this is an instruction which concerns directly the mental activity. Opening, opening, opening everywhere, opening. So we know how it feels to be open, we know how it feels to be closed. And we use that. A great entry into natural presence. Or we use an instruction like leave all thoughts to themselves, the attitude of non-involvement. Clear dynamic presence without involving with anything whatsoever. Thinking processes just liberate themselves. And so on. So all of this would be using instructions, characteristics. And then we can also meditate without focusing on characteristics, which is actually an advanced shamatha practice for someone who does not need a reminder like an object, outside, sensory object, anywhere in the world, nothing to be imagined inside, no imaginary world to be visualized, no instructions to be remembered. The only thing we do there is noticing when the mind enters some kind of unnecessary effort. We relax all the tension, the stress, the dukkha. We meditate directly with signs of dukkha, and automatically we get out of the stress. There is no instruction actually we follow. Here in shamatha, without support and without characteristics, actually we simply meditate with trust, with blessing. This is the closest we can get to the non-dual state. This is shamatha, where actually the meditator has come to a point where the mind remains stable by itself. Big distractions have dissolved, small distractions, they also dissolve by themselves by simply coming back into awareness. Even the observing tendency becomes so still, so calm, that it's hardly noticeable. It's an absolutely silent observing which makes no comments anymore. We don't fight with it, we don't give importance to it. This then is effortless, calm abiding. And when then we forget ourselves in this experience, it becomes Mahamudra. Then it opens up into Mahamudra. This I cannot teach you extensively now. This shamatha, without focusing on characteristics, will be the topic of some later video. I want to practice with you now. Practice a little bit more. Because for you, I take you as a group. Of course, there are individuals who might need different instructions. But most of you, the furthest you can go is the last thing I put you into the chat, is practicing calm abiding by focusing on some helpful characteristics, some helpful indications. So I will use one favorite now with you. It is using the breathing experience and connecting that to the symbolic understanding of opening up as I breathe in and letting it flow when I breathe out. We have a support, slight support, but a dynamic one. It's the experience of breathing. The whole body is breathing, and the heart-mind is breathing along. Opening and flowing. Allowing the mind to breathe. enjoying the opening quality, the flowing quality. Open, flowing, breathing. Relax in the way that is most beneficial to you. need more focus, come back more to the experience of breathing, the physical experience, I mean the so-called physical, what you become aware of, the subtleties of breathing in, the subtleties of breathing out. Like this, you can come back to more focus anytime you like. And then you can relax again and trusting the mind to settle in its own open and flowing quality. Thank you very much. You probably understood from my explanations that the specific Mahamudra approach to calm abiding goes towards relying on the natural qualities of mind as we meditate Shamatha, calm abiding. So the idea is not to engage in mental gymnastics and do all kinds of objects, but with every object we learn about mind, we get to know qualities of the mind until we begin to trust our mind. Shamatha becomes deeper with the growing confidence that we don't have to do anything. Then actually all of it appears. And as we are not doing anything, not manipulating, we also get out of all the sidetracks, the dead-end roads in Shamatha practice due to different forms of clinging. The remedy is always the same. It is this opening, flowing quality of mind, which is its own nature. We don't have to create it. Just we help ourselves to trust it more, to allow it to manifest more. Also, we trust that the mind is naturally undistracted. When I say naturally, I don't mean the habitual patterns of samsara. I mean that what mind is, when we allow it to be free, then it is naturally undistracted. But of course, we can always cling and focus and direct the mind anywhere and go with whatever appears and make a thought chain out of it. Feelings, emotions, we can make waves. Yeah. But just like water, it's another one of those famous examples, like water is actually calming down when there is no wind and it just settles in a pond, and even the ocean can become completely calm when there is no wind. Then, in the same way, when the karmic winds do not receive our clinging and aversion, then the karmic firework, which will naturally appear in your practice of shamatha, it can liberate itself, and just like not clinging to fireworks which you see in the sky, there will be a moment of experience and it will be gone. And in this way we exhaust our storage of karmic fireworks, which is necessary for more mental calm. That mental calm arises more and more often and becomes a continuous experience. That includes that this way of practicing calm abiding is diminishing the sense of self. The meditator is actually not active, becomes always less active. The further the shamatha progresses, the less we do. Like this, it becomes the natural preparation for just abiding. And then whether we forget ourselves or not, whether it's non-dual or dual, actually, who cares? The one who cares is the problem, right? So who cares? Let it be as it is. Don't care so much about becoming awakened. That's your nature. So allow it to happen. Don't get in with all these hopes and worries. Yes? No need. No one cares. The only thing is, when there is tension, we relax it. That's all. That's the instruction which will remain with us forever, you can say. Okay, so this leads us to the end of our retreat. Zoom session for 5 days. I would be very happy if many of you could switch on the video so we can actually say goodbye to each other. You have been a very constant group of always more than 140 computers connected, which is wonderful in the middle of summer. It's a wonderful thing. Oh, I see even Masha from Russia is connected now. That's wonderful. That's great to see. See, I recognize you easier when I see your pictures, your image, your videos. It's wonderful. So normally we would have a sharing, we would share our experiences with each other. And now we will just dedicate, actually. We will dedicate for the benefit of all. Let's sing the dedication prayers and think of all those in the universe who do not have access to such teachings and the time to practice them, and make wishes that all of them find the conditions to not only receive but to put into practice those teachings so that they will realize their own mind, that they will find the trust in the basic nature of mind, and that they lose all fear of leaving this body, of leaving any kind of existence, of entering the bardo, that this is just a natural experience of intermediate state now. What should be so different in the intermediate state after leaving this body? Same mind. So let's develop that complete trust and confidence in the nature of mind and dedicate whatever positive has come from this Zoom retreat to all beings, to the awakening of all beings. Sunam de tam je zepane topne ne pedranam banjene kegana chimbalan jumpaye sipet sole drowadrawasho Champem pavun jita kempadang kuntu sampun deyan deshinta Deda kunjin jisun dak lom jing Gewan dedan tam jeram tungu Sangye kusum nebejen lamdang Genji minju dem bejen lamdang Gendu meje dem bejen lamji Jidang owamen lamdrum paiju. And thank you to our teachers. Thank you to all those in all those many centuries who have taken care to pass on those teachings to other generations and who took on the difficulties of doing so. Thank you, thank you, thank you.